Welcome to Imperfect Heart, a place for you to join me, Jeff Holden, in conversations, discussions, and dialogue about our hearts and the impact myocardial bridges have on them. We'll talk with healthcare professionals, those in related fields that support our condition, and others just like us with stories of their myocardial bridge experiences. It's my intention for this content to inform, educate, entertain, and even motivate or inspire you in your personal journey on dealing with a myocardial bridge. Most importantly is to have you leave each episode with hope, knowing you're not alone and that what you're experiencing is real. I've wanted to do a relationship episode for some time now, and it was a matter of finding the right situation, the right couple, the right emotion. And then once I thought I had the right people, I had to convince them that sharing the challenges of our condition and what it creates on a relationship would be a great benefit to everyone who hears the story. Well, over the course of a year, I got to know Kelly Sears. Her situation went from mild concern to, am I going to live? She shared some of the pressures it was putting on her home life, her relationships, on how everything was upended and that what she used to be, she was no longer. Was her condition real? Would she ever be the same person her husband married? Getting proper treatment for our myocardial bridges is one thing, but dealing with the effects on our spouses or significant others is another. What happens when that love and affection is pushed to the limits? How much trust and support is there when it gets right down to it? And what if it's going to cost a significant amount of money to even attempt to cure the physical maladies our bridges present? We're going to address these questions and more in this episode. You'll hear the story from both Kelly and her husband, Tank Sears, as they candidly share their emotional roller coaster. Through their story, you'll witness the strain such challenges placed on their family and the extraordinary lengths they went to in search of hope and healing. Kelly and Tank Sears, welcome to Imperfect Heart.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to be here.
I feel like I know you. Kelly, I've been talking to you for quite some time via text and phone and Zoom and surgery, and Tank got involved and the family, and I can't wait to have this story told. So let's get right into it. But before we do, I have to ask, Tank, that can't be your given name.
I was 10 and a half pounds when I was born. So the nurse came in and said, "Here's your little Tank." And my parents named me Tank Patrick. So
I love it.
I was the biggest baby. I was the biggest baby in the hospital at the time in Van Nuys, California.
For what it's worth, we have my second son was born 10 pounds, 11 ounces.
Little Tank too.
He was a little Tank. He looked like Jabba the Hutt. He just came out with all these rolls and rolls and rolls. It was hilarious.
Yes, that was me.
Well, plus you shot out of your mom.
Yes, surgery or there was
they weren't even in the room yet.
Right.
The nurse had to catch them. So they're wheeling her in and boom, outshot.
Your poor mother. But the good news is you've had that since birth. I love it.
And then he asked me to have kids for him.
Not if they're going to be little Tanks.
Right. Kelly, I'm going to start with you as the patient first. Give us a brief story of what led you to actually your successful unroofing procedure. How did you know you had a problem?
So in March of late of March 2020, I thought I was having esophagus problems. So they did a procedure on me, a camera and an endoscopy. This is right around COVID and everything was kind of not quite locked down, but getting there. So they did this procedure. And then a couple days later, I still had pain, but it was excruciating. And so our daughter is a nurse and she said, "I'm taking you to the hospital." So she took me up to the ER. By now it's early April and the world has shut down for COVID. So I get in The hospital was empty. There was no patients. It wasn't hustle and bustle like you'd think. And then after a while, I kind of felt better. And the ER doc came in and said, "Well, we're going to admit you. You've had a heart attack." And I goes, "Nope, that's not me. It's I'm feeling better now." And he said, "You're my only patient. I know, So they checked my troponins were elevated. So they admitted me, and I was there for 3 days, all kinds of tests. In fact, they kept my troponins kept elevating um, for almost all day. Tank couldn't come in. My daughter worked at that hospital, so she was able to put her scrubs on and come in like she was working. Um, they did every test for 3 days that they could do except an angiogram. And no test was great, but it wasn't the worst they'd seen. By then, my symptoms had cleared and I was ready to go home. No answers, but so I went home. They had done every test they possibly could, except for the angiogram in 3 days, and sent me home. And I never thought to ask what happened, why, what caused it. Um, but they sent me home with the caution that if I had any kind of pressure or pain in my chest, to come back. So I did that night, actually. Was it that night or 2 days later?
A couple days later.
Maybe the second night. And it was just little pin pains. It was nothing like what originally put me there, but I was nervous because of what they told me. So I went back up and they readmitted me. My EKG was off. And that's when they did the emergency angiogram. So that was when it all started. And for the most part, for that first year after, I didn't really have symptoms, but I was taking medications and seeing the cardiologist
The
every
angiogram,
other month.
the angiogram showed the kink.
The
And
Yeah, the
everything with that.
twist
It showed
in
the
the
issue.
LAD, like a crazy straw.
But the doctors were like, yeah, we don't know.
They did 2 angio procedures. They did the one where they go under your wrist, and that's one view. That was the view that scared them. They thought there was like a 90% blockage. They were getting ready to crack me open there. I didn't know this during that time, but then another cardiologist came in. He did the IVUS through my femoral down, and he was able to get inside my LAD and take a little ride, and it was open. It was just curled like a crazy straw.
Yeah, it was crazy stuff.
Yeah, but I wasn't having a spasm at that time, so everything looked good.
Sure. And
I
the
guess.
IVUS, for the benefit of those not familiar, is the intravascular ultrasound where they're checking to see, if there's any occlusion or any narrowing of that particular artery.
Yeah, and he didn't see any of that. He saw why the other image showed that it was blocked, but from inside it was not.
Now,
So they kicked her out, or,
right?
they released her, and
But now it's full lockdowns.
they were kind of like, all right, we don't
Yeah.
really know what's going on,
This
but
medicine and this
maybe you need
medicine.
to start statins. Not a lot of information.
Follow up with a cardiologist
Yeah.
eventually when the world opens back up.
Yeah.
And
So-
so that's what, 2021-ish?
So that was April of 2020.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I was out and other than, oh my gosh, the IVUS, my leg was so black and blue. It was a little sore, but I pushed through. We took a trip. We went boating. I just went on my friend's boat, which is not as bouncy, and took it easy, and then followed up with a cardiologist for a few months. But every time I'd leave, I'd be like, why am I here? Because I didn't feel bad anymore.
Right.
Why am I taking these meds? The meds were awful. So he would adjust those per how I was tolerating them. So I was just kind of, I didn't really think about what caused any of it or what put me there to begin with.
It was frustrating. There was no answers, and
But I wasn't symptomatic earlier on that first year after. That was just one episode. And then symptoms kind of, I'd say 7, 8 months after. I kind of was at a regular, just a scheduled follow-up. with the cardiologist, and I told him, I'm feeling a little, maybe pressure, not pain, maybe pressure. And then he upped my dose of metoprolol, amlodipine. I think those were the two. So it made me feel terrible. I can't even remember if I was having chest pressure.
What point did you get to enough severity to say something's not right here and still not getting a proper diagnosis? So you're probably into 2021 now, pushing into 2022, right?
Probably right. Yeah, probably in there, another scheduled follow-up, because nothing was so bad for me the way I felt other than the medications that I needed to make an appointment to go see the cardiologist. I'd make him in advance after my last appointment. And then I'd wait and I'd kind of take notes and tell him how I was feeling. And he did. And I did finally ask him what put me in the hospital to begin with. And he said, you have a myocardial bridge, but those are benign. That's not what it was. But he didn't tell me, he could tell me but not what it was. And that was the only term I'd ever heard attributed to what happened to me. But in a way that that's not what caused it. So that was.
Yeah, so you progress, or I should say digress, technically, and deteriorate over the course of the next, year or something, to where you're realizing something's not right?
Yeah. So that whole period of time was just a weird place in the world, right? We could all agree COVID was we had homeschool, distance learning. That was a little distracting. We lost Tank's mom early after my first heart attack.
Sorry to hear that.
So that there's a lot of other things going on in life, so I didn't have a lot of time to think about how I was feeling. I had to keep pushing through, and I could at least push through. But then I started to get a little breathless and a little
Pain, chest pain a little bit.
chest pain, mostly a lot of, I guess pain and pressure. And I kept telling the cardiologist, he just said, you need to walk more. You're a little overweight.
You're stressed.
You're just a stressed out mom. And I liked the cardiologist. He's the one that came in and did the IVUS. He's the only one in this area that was trained to do it at the time. He's just stood his ground that the myocardial bridge was benign, and I agreed, because it was for me for 50 years until it wasn't. So he discouraged, I'd say, like any follow-up with another cardiologist, because they're just going to put you through a bunch of things and poke you and unnecessary stuff. But we're fairly certain it won't kill you.
Yeah, that was the quote.
Yeah. Two cardiologists said those exact words to me. We're fairly certain
Probably won't kill you.
it won't kill you.
Okay.
So the last 6 months, jump forward, they're telling me I'm a stressed out mom, and I know better. Having some trouble with insurance and authorizations. But I'd say like the last year before the surgery, I started having fainting spells. And I could figure those out, what I was doing that would lead up to it, or the feelings before it would lead up to me actually hitting the ground. And I could sit down but then it would keep progressing towards where I couldn't figure out. I would wake up on the ground, and I thought, oh, I didn't catch that one in time. So fairly certain that bridge won't kill me, but fainting unexpectedly and maybe smashing my head, that's not a nice way to go either.
No, and Tank, at this point in time, now she is symptomatic. She's attempting to get some sort of resolve. The cardiologist keeps saying, no, honey, it's just stress. You're fine. You need to relax a little bit more, maybe lose a few pounds. What's happening with you? You've now watched things deteriorate to where something's happening, but how is it with you? What are you seeing?
So we spoke about earlier, you look back and over those 3 or 4 years, now you can see it was kind of a slow deterioration where you don't really notice because you're living in that moment. But there was a couple things she skipped. We'd gone to the ER a bunch of times too.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Because she was having major, there was almost two different types of pains. There's a constant chest pain that she was kind of started just living with eventually. And then there was what she called heart attack pains, where it put her down and she couldn't move. And she's basically having a heart attack. So we'd go to the ER, and we went to the ER a bunch of times, but they'd check us in. That first time she went and they admitted her with her troponins were up. And then the second time they admitted her again for 2 days. But then she wasn't really symptomatic over a year. But then she started having the pain again and started having the heart attack symptoms like shooting pain and major chest pain. So we'd go back, they'd admit her. I mean, they wouldn't admit her. We'd be in the ER and they'd run all the tests and they'd say, hey, your EKGs are fine. Your troponins aren't really that high. Maybe a little bit, but not super high, nothing that we really worry about. We'd sit there in the ER for 8 hours and they'd go, yeah, we don't really know what's up, but you're doing good. So just we did that 4 or 5 times until it finally got to the point where she'd start having these heart attack pains. And it's like, oh, do we go to the ER? And I got to the point where I'm like, why? Why are we going to the ER?
I didn't want to go.
They're not
either.
doing anything.
Yeah,
they're not doing anything. We go there, we sit there for 8 hours, and they say everything's cool. Sorry, we don't know.
But they give you nitro and
Yeah.
all these. So if I'm a heart patient, why are you giving heart medicine? That was,
And in the meantime, over like from 21 on, she's heard myocardial bridge and she starts doing her research. And I can tell you one thing about her is if she's researching something, she's all in. She'll get to the point where she has educated herself. It's not just WebMD. I mean, she's not just going on and looking at one definition. She's doing major research, talking to people, and very well educated on the topic. And she's showing me stuff because, she's explaining things to me. And I'm like, yeah, that's totally what you have. This myocardial bridge, the symptoms match exactly what you're going through. Let's look into that. But every time we'd go to a doctor, ER or the cardiologist, it was, no, that's not symptomatic. That's not it. That's not it. And so finally I get to the point where I'm like, okay, cool. What is it? What's going on? Explain it to me. Tell me what the problem is, because you guys aren't doing anything. I was getting very frustrated.
It kind of turns into you start questioning, like, all of these people over here are saying it's not that, and I don't know what it is. That's where that kind of gaslighting, that shadow of doubt right in your brain, thinking, well, maybe it is her. Maybe she is going crazy. I thought the same thing. I thought, maybe I am just a stressed out mom. Maybe.
We went to another cardiologist. Same thing. Said, hey, your bridge is benign. Everything else looks good. I think we need to change your statins. You need to take different drugs.
No, I wasn't taking statins.
Or what?
He said I should start taking statins, even though my cholesterol is not high.
In the meantime, the more we're going back to the ER, more we're going to the doctor, she's declining more. It's like we go seek help. As time goes on, she's getting worse. There's more chest pain. There's more, I call them heart attack symptoms. There's fatigue, major fatigue, and she's, like I said, she's turning purple. Her fingers are turning purple at times. Her lips, the corners are turning purple. I mean, it's obviously not in her head. I know that much. But I do start like, all right, well, maybe it's not the myocardial bridge, because I am seeing that it's benign most of the time. And, and the cardiologists are saying, well, maybe it's your esophagus issues. And so she goes to the esophagus doctor and he goes, it's absolutely not. They scope her and do all this stuff. And he's like, no, it's not. We've done every test. It has nothing to do with your esophagus. She's had her gallbladder out. Okay. Is it some type of gallbladder issue? And so they're given all these, like, maybe it's this, maybe that, but really the only thing that really matches all the symptoms are this myocardial bridge. But still, you have all these professionals telling you, no, that's not it. I mean, you talk about doubt. There's major, major doubt. And for me, not going through it, not being able to feel what she's going through, I'm sitting back and I'm just thinking, is this, nothing against her, but I think, having back pain myself, nobody really understands what you're going through unless you're going through it. And although I'm sitting and witnessing it, I don't really know what she's feeling. And I understand that pain and stuff you're going through can psychologically affect you. You can get depressed. You can go into dark places with dealing with something. And so I'm like, is it part of that also? Is this making it worse? She's not a depressed type person. She's not, negative at all. But when you're dealing with something, you're not getting answers, it starts to mess with your head. And I'm sitting back going, is this also added? Is that part of it? Is it making it worse because you're thinking about it so much and it's almost creating this reality for you? I don't know. You start asking all these weird questions and going through this stuff.
I was pretty sure, but it did start affecting me that way. I will admit, like eventually I was like, why am I even trying anymore? Because there is no help for someone like me until I found this.
And then she mentioned the insurance. So the insurance was a whole thing too. We have a decent insurance through my work. I thought it was decent. It's not the basic insurance, it's decent insurance. Zero help. I mean, she's doing the research. She's like, okay, I think it's this myocardial bridge. I'd like to look into it further. There's specialists up north in Stanford. Let's get referrals to that. I talked to our primary doctor.
He knows us and has forever.
Great doctor. Our primary doctor's awesome.
He always believed, like, this is not me.
Yeah.
This is not you. This is not in your head. There's something wrong with you. I've known you too long. I go once a year for a physical. That's it. It's not. I'm not a patient. Right. I go once a year for a physical. He knows Tank. He does my kids. So he knows us as a family and he knows that's not me. So he pushed the paperwork through for Stanford.
And they okayed it first, but they only okayed like 2 of the 3 procedures. One. So I had her call right before we were going, say, hey, can you just call the insurance company and confirm that, maybe we can get it done? And she calls and she's like, no, you're not approved for any of it. Like, any of it? What are you talking about? We're approved. So I start playing that game. And then we said, okay, well, maybe if we get actual cardiologists to do that, they put in another referral. Now it's from a cardiologist specialist to another specialist. It gets approved again. And one more time, I'm like, hey.
They approved it for Cedars, which is a great hospital, but they don't have a bridge specialist. Meanwhile, Stanford has my file. They've already made accommodations and all the appointments.
We bought airline tickets, hotels. We're ready to go.
Found someone to come watch our kids for 3 days while we go and solve Kelly.
Get an answer at least.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to a specialist that at least could give us an answer.
They have a great program at Stanford. Their team was at the coordination, the communication. Always reachable by phone. They were awesome. They were working with my insurance company as well. They wanted me, and they got me in probably within 3 months of the referral getting to them. They called me like on the phone and said, yes, come up here. We think we can help. So
you get all the way to the point of almost diagnosis, proper diagnosis. What is the tipping point? What gets you to that next step of confirmation that I just have to do this?
So we went. So I thought, okay, well, these the male cardiologists. And so I said, well, hey, let's find a female cardiologist, maybe at least because as we found out, there's like females have major heart issues that are, unseen and untalked about really. And, cardiovascular health is a major issue with women, come to find out. And so I thought, well, let's find a female cardiologist that can maybe empathize with the situation and maybe take a different approach and get an outside perspective. And we found another cardiologist, super nice lady. We went and talked to her. She was very upfront. She's like, I know what myocardial bridge is. I'm aware of it, but I'm not a specialist in it. I don't know the answers to that. She said, she agreed, yes, you have something going on. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's this myocardial bridge, but I don't have the education or in this field to say it is or not. She was very upfront, very I appreciated that. And she was very supportive. Yeah. And so we explained to her, hey, we're trying to get up to Stanford to get a specialist. And so she's the one that wrote the referral. And our insurance company said, well, we'll send you to Cedars. There's a specialist in Cedars. It's a very well-known cardiologist. and the
And she
female.
was great.
She was awesome. We went
Dr.
down
Mary
there.
Mertz.
Yeah, Dr. Mertz.
Yeah.
We went down there and spoke to her. But this now is
I can't remember.
it's probably in March or April of 24. And so Kelly's had, she's at the end of her.
I had talked to you on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, I had listened to your podcast. That was a big, I had Tank listen to a couple or at least some snippets of some of them. I'm like, I'm not, everyone thinks they're going
I'm not
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, what a thing to have to be happy about,
And
right?
she did find
Right.
Dr. Kofidis.
Well, you found,
through
through your
you.
podcast.
And so that's part of it. We just trying to get this dealt with. So we went down to Cedars. Like I said, this was really,
I'd already been,
she's done. She basically can't get up, maybe a little bit. We have kids that need to go to school and need rides. I work, and she is barely functioning at this point, just getting through the mandatory steps of the day. But for the most part, has to lay down most of the time, breathless, passing out, constant chest pain. I mean, there's something wrong.
And
So frustrating.
What are the kids thinking about this at this point in time too? It's like, Mom, what's up with you? I mean, what's happening?
They're teenage boys. They're kind of like, meh. I don't think they really grasp the problem. I think they understand,
they were accommodating, I'd say.
Yeah. And I would talk to them and say, hey, something's up with your mom. She's sick. Check on her, leave her alone. Don't bother her, don't stress her out.
Mm-hmm.
And they were accommodating for the most part, but I don't think they really, they were young. It's a lot for them to grasp.
It's a lot for them to grasp. And I really, tried, I pushed and pushed so that to make it as normal as possible, because I didn't want to put them through that. It's really hard to see your loved ones looking at you with that sadness or that scared, they're just afraid all the time around you of what's going to happen, or the fact that I didn't look good, and they'd go, your color's off, or it's just hard to see that reflected in the people that you love.
And that was also with our friends. We're pretty social. We have a good friend group. We do a lot. We're active. And, as time went on, we're less active, less social, less, over the last 2 years, because she really doesn't have the energy to do anything really, even go out to dinner. And finally it was, at the end, she's not doing anything. I mean, she's trying, but, maybe she'd show up for an hour and then she's like, I got to go home, and so that creates a divide with us. I'm out hanging out and doing stuff or going places and doing things, and she can't really do it. So that kind of separate, less in common, less together. That puts a strain on our relationship. And I hate to say it, but there's some resentment, that I was carrying, like not specifically towards her, but towards this situation. It's like, this sucks. This sucks. It's changing our lives. It's a big deal. I was pretty optimistic when we went to Cedars, because the doctor down there was like, look, I know Stanford. I know the people up there. I know this condition. I would like you to change some medication for at least 6 months before I recommend that you go up to Cedars to get surgery. So we left that meeting, and I felt pretty good about it. Kelly actually felt pretty decent about it, but she was in constant pain. And she's like, I don't know if I can make 6 months the way I feel. I don't know if I'm going to be alive for 6 months. And I said, okay. And she said, I'll give him 3 months. I'll try the drugs. I'll try the different meds. 3 months. I said, okay, let's do 3 months. And then then it was like, then we're going to pursue Dr. Kofidis and that route. It was expensive, and I was hoping that our insurance would cover it here and we could get it done here. Plus travel and logistics and we're just trying to big picture everything, trying to figure this out. I mean, my first hope is that our insurance can get us up to Stanford and get the care that she needs and get this fixed the way it's supposed to be here in the States, with our insurance, with good doctors, the way you would expect it to be. But we just keep getting the runaround. So we decide, hey, we'll give it 3 months. I said, okay, let's do it. And then we go into next stage, which is a little scary, wiring all this money over to a person I've never met in Europe, and it's a little unnerving. I mean,
Sure.
we met with him online once, and he was fantastic. He's like, "Yeah, when you coming?" It's like, "What do you mean? We're just."
He didn't know all of, he didn't know all of everything all the time. He knew that I was looking into the doctor from Greece, basically. So he wasn't necessarily in the know for everything, but I was confident with as many sources as you're on your podcast, with you speaking, with I saw Dr. Kofidis speak. This is before I even talked to him. And I did all of my research, and I was feeling not like he was a stranger, or not like this was a scam. I understand why Tank does feel that way, though.
We set up a meeting with him. We forwarded him all of her records. We get on, Dr. Kofidis, he's great. He gets on. We get on the Zoom with him, and he's like, "Kelly, when are you guys coming out?"
When are you coming?
I'm like, "Whoa, man, I don't even know you, dude. Can you just look, tell me what's going on? Like, clue me in, catch me up here." He's like, "Oh, she's 100% she's 100% a patient of myocardial bridge. I can guarantee I can make her better." I'm like, "Okay, that sounds fantastic. What do we need?" He's like, "Wire me this money and wire the hospital this money." I'm like, "Okay, slow down." Like this. All right.
That's
Uh,
not summer.
yeah, but it was great. He's awesome. And so a little bit of leap of faith, and it was disappointing that we couldn't, the state's medical system just seems to be broken. I know I texted with you or in Greece. It was just an eye opener that
Oh, it was awesome.
just and how broken. I hate to say it because I love this country. I love everything about it, but man, our medical system's broken.
Right. Yeah. What's interesting is, Kelly, first, it's your self-advocacy to keep pushing and digging and pushing and digging, and Tank, for you to hang on at some points by a thread, just hanging on, going, I'm buying this kind of, but boy, we got to find something, because this long-term isn't good for either of us in so many ways. Worst case scenario, assume something bad happens. And obviously nobody wants that to be the situation. But the fact that you were able to persevere to find a solution on your own, because the insurance company, unfortunately, is not helping you either, that is a result of all your effort, all your persistence, Tank, you hanging in and supporting, even with reluctance, that it takes that sometimes, in spite of every time you take a step forward, you're taking two back. Okay, yeah, we got to get you here, get you to Stanford. Oh, insurance won't pay. Okay, we got to fix it again. We got another cardiologist, get you to Stanford. Oh, insurance won't pay. I mean, so you just keep getting knocked back. In the meantime, as time progresses, you're getting worse and your condition's getting worse. And I know many of us, as we went through this particular process, you don't know that you're going to make it. You don't know how long you've got because of the symptoms, right?
Yeah.
And to get to the point of the acknowledgement and the acceptance of a doctor somewhere else in another country is it's a big step forward. Obviously, you're right, a leap of faith and confidence in a last gasp effort to say, well, let's do this. And I just applaud you guys for getting to that point. And here's the part I really like is you didn't just go and get the situation. You brought the kids, the whole family to Greece. Tell us a little bit about that. What was that decision-making process?
Well, it was like March or April, and we were trying to get there by June, I think it was. But
September.
September, that's what it was. But the kids had school.
Gone 2 weeks.
So you're gone 2 weeks. And so we were trying to figure out, okay, how do we get somebody here for 2 weeks to watch the kids? It's kind of difficult. And so it was kind of decided, Kelly actually decided, well, they're out for Thanksgiving break. We can take them out of school for 1 week, and then they're off for 1 week. Let's just do that. And I was like, can you make it that long? And she's like, I don't know. And
I'll try.
I mean, looking back, you laugh at it, but there was days, I don't even know if she knows this. There was days where we'd be laying in bed and I'd roll over and I'd like, is she still breathing? It was a real crappy time.
I'm sorry.
I didn't know if I'm thinking in my head, I'm going to dark places. Like, she's going to die. How am I going to raise the kids and keep going on. She's dead. You know, there's some bad things. For anybody going through this, it's tough. And I'm not trying to victimize myself. I'm not a victim. It just couple wise, for anybody listening to this that is a couple, it's difficult. I understand it.
I didn't even know you felt like
difficult.
that.
Oh, thanks.
Aw.
So it's difficult for somebody that's not in that moment or not feeling that, like I said earlier. And I think it's tough. It's hard for significant others to be supportive when there's so much doubt dumped on you from the medical industry and from insurance and just the unknown and just getting pushed back every step of the way you take it. It sucks. It just sucks. And finally, like you said at the end, I was like, I'll do it. I don't care. Let's just do it. Let's just figure this out. This is it. This is it. It's it or nothing, because it's it or you're dying, obviously. So let's do it. I don't, whatever. Luckily, it was semi-affordable. Come to find out, it was doable. A lot more affordable than doing it here. 1/10 the cost or whatever. So we decided, hey, let's do it. We met with Dr. Kofidis online.
But we got to bring the kids
So
because
the kids are going to have to go because we don't really have anybody there. I said, hey, we've never been to Greece. Let's, even though it's not a vacation, it might be cool for the kids to be involved in this and see Greece and come with us.
it eased the stress for me because
Yeah.
you're so
Mhm.
far away, and if something is, and I'll be tore open if something were to happen. If there was some kind of an emergency on this end, I can't just jump on a plane. Tank could, but then I'd be left in Greece. It's just easier to bring them with.
That was a big part of it. Yeah.
I just couldn't.
It reduced the stress on that end too.
Yeah. It was actually easier to bring them.
It was.
Well, I think what a neat experience for the kids to see their parents deal with a difficult situation, to see how they dealt with it, and to your point of experiencing something in another country as well, for them to notice that, hey, it's not just the United States. There are other great places. There are other people that care. And because you were open to that experience, they're going to see that as an opportunity for them as they grow up too. And they'll look at different situations and say, well, hey, maybe we have to take an alternative route because this isn't working. And not to mention, Tank, I so appreciate you sharing the emotion of that, because that's a part that a lot of people want to just stuff down and not share. And it's a denial almost. There was
a lot of denial. I would say I had a lot of denial. I was just kind of pushing it off through the years. And, because she was, looking back, she was bad 2, 3, 4 years. There was a lot of, this will get better. And pushing it off. I think she did a little bit of that too. Like, this will get better. And we both kind of did that so we could just keep on living our lives. But eventually it got to the point where we're not living our lives. We need to fix this. So, and the trip was good. It was actually a decent trip. I don't really call it a vacation, although it kind of was. The treatment over there was insanely good. The doctors gave me their cell phones and were texting me and surgery.
When we got there on Sunday. They said, go sleep, come here on Monday. And we brought the boys with us. So Finney was 15. He turned 16 in February. Beckham was 11, 10. My kids, I've missed out on a few things the last couple of years. So they came in the room. There's the big TV screen where they go over everything, and they looked at me and said, do you want your boys in here for all of this? I'm like, sure. And so Dr. Kofidis said, yeah, it's okay. Let's do this. And Dr. Thomas was the other surgeon.
Awesome. Amazing.
Great.
We were in there they grabbed us and we were in there in a meeting with them in this nice office with the kids and us for over 2 hours, just the two doctors talking to us, putting all the images up on the screen. Because I've never had treatment for anything like that in my life. I included the boys, talking to the boys, including them, hey, there's what you're going to expect. This is what you guys need to do. These are possible side effects. Very, very open. These are possible side effects. These are the chances. These are the risks. Just walking through the whole thing so we understood everything and what they're doing. It was great. It was just the way things should be. I was texting you. I was texting everybody like, "This is the way things should be. This is the way treatment should be." It was amazing. Just
And
amazing.
weird to say from this end, in just a little tiny way, I was a little jealous. It was like,
I was
gosh,
trying to I
I've
was trying
almost
to take advantage of the situation as much as possible, while she's stuck in the hospital. I mean, the first day we made sure that the surgery was done. We went. They were like I said, they were texting me. The doctors
yeah.
from the ER from the operating room were like, "Hey, we're coming out of surgery. We'll be in. You can get over here real quick and see her while she's still in the ICU and just say hi." And so, okay, we went over. She was good, but then she's done for the rest of the day. She's out. She's sleeping. I said, "Hey, kids, let's go over to the Parthenon and go look at because we were a mile or 2 miles away from it, and walk to the bazaar and go check stuff out and kind of check the city out." And so, I mean, we tried to take advantage. And then once, amazingly, she's 4 days in. She's like, "I want to get out of the hospital. Let's go." The doctor's like, "Hey, you got to show that you walk. You got to show that you're doing good." And she's like, "Okay, no problem." And she's up walking around and doing stuff. And they're okay. You can leave the hospital, but we need to see you tomorrow. And she's okay. And the next day we went and checked in with them. She's doing good. And she's like, "I want to go see the Parthenon." I'm like, "Okay, let's go check it out." Now we didn't go up and walk, the whole thing. It's gigantic, but we went to the shops down below and walked around, and we're walking around. She's 5 days, 6 days out of surgery, having her heart cracked open, her chest cracked open. And we're walking through these, and she's like, she hasn't been in 2 years. And then she looks at me and says, "I couldn't have done this 2 weeks ago. There's no way." I'm like, "How are you feeling?" She's like, "I feel great." I feel wonderful.
It's slow for sure.
Yeah. I mean,
Slow, but I couldn't call it
sure, but not.
not painful. There was some soreness, but the immediacy of it, is that even a word? I'm going to create a whole new vocabulary. Was I woke up in the hospital, and that when you first wake up, well, you've got tubes coming out here and on each side of you and from the middle of you, and you're bound, and they've got just everything's tight and uncomfortable. But I immediately felt better, even though I had all of that. Yeah, they sawed my throat in half. I immediately felt better. Now the first 3 days were rough, not nice, but uncomfortable. My head kept getting tangled in these little spindles that they had out of my right here, and I would try to untangle that, and then I'd get all tangled. What a mess I was for the first 3 days.
First 3 days of recovery is rough.
That was rough, but not painful. So I text Mary because I'm like, "I think I messed up. I think it's worse. I can't breathe. I can't catch my breath. I'm more uncomfortable now than before." And she said, "No, wait till tomorrow. Just wait till that fourth day." And wow, she was right. Mary McDonald. Sorry. Hi, Mary. She told me it's that she goes, "It's just hold on till that fourth day. Trust me, that fourth day is going to be a game changer."
You nailed it. It was.
It was. It really it was. And I even told other patients on the floor, because I'm out walking, because if you walk this many steps, you can get this tube out. If you walk this many more steps, you can get this tube out. So in doing that, I'm walking up and down the halls, and people are stopping, going, "You're really young. Did you?" It's all heart surgeries on that floor. And so I'm talking to the caregivers for patients, the wives or the daughters and sons of their parents, and they're saying, "Well, it's really bad right now." I said, "Wait till that fourth day. That fourth day is going to be a game changer." And then a couple of the ladies, they were the dad and the husband were sharing a room, separate patients. They were sharing a room, and they asked me to come in and talk to them.
Yeah.
So
Greek, they barely speak English.
But boy,
Worked out.
yeah. And I walk in to these men, and they're just laying there with no shirts on. They're not very, they don't care about nakedness.
Yeah.
American. And they're just laying there. And we sat there and talked for an hour, 2 hours. Come back tomorrow to, talk to us more. Not necessarily just about heart surgery, just about just life.
Yeah.
So it was quite a unique experience. The Greek people are wonderful, welcoming.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And all around for everybody, for you guys, for the kids, the experience, the crazy American lady. I'm sure the Greek guys are talking about her
Totally.
the rest of their life, you know?
They called me Hollywood.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect.
Isn't that
So
nice?
I think fair to say today, Kelly, that you are pretty much back to where you were
Uh,
pre-symptom.
oh, for sure. For sure. It's funny. I forget, you forget, and like even still today, I learned how sick I was and what I was capable of and what things I had to do, but what that was going to create for me. So the other day I'm thinking, oh, God, I have to go upstairs. I left that thing upstairs and I've got to, and I stopped myself. I thought, well, go down the stairs as much as I want, but so yeah, no, 100%. This heart thing was like, it seems like it was so long ago. Now just getting my brain back to thinking like, oh, well, why am I thinking like, oh gosh, I left it upstairs. Simple little everyday things like that.
I
And
do
I'm
that.
like,
I do that too. So I can't get the hard thing.
I guess not just a heart that I'm walking 4 to 6 miles a day. And I'm awake all day long. I'm upright all day long from 4 to 5 a.m. till 7 to 9 p.m.
I'd say
Um,
she definitely got a second breath and really appreciation for her situation. You know,
yeah,
she's up in the morning, she's out walking, definitely way positive, feeling good and taking advantage of her second chance at life, really.
Right. And I'm sure you too, Tank, to say, I've got my wife back.
Oh, it's nice.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. That's
And
totally selfish of me, but it's totally awesome.
of course, of course. And I certainly recall, how appreciative I was of my wife, the opposite of your situation, just being there. She was there all the way through. She would do the insurance work and the things that is, I'll do the health stuff. I got to figure that out if you can help with this. And it became this team effort of you got this, I got this, we've got to figure it out. And then how grateful I was on the other side of it and how you tend to look at things differently, getting it back. And Kelly, not unlike yourself, I knew right away. I knew when I was in that hospital, I knew right away that something was different. And I didn't know what it was going to look like 6 months, a year, 2 years down the line, but at least I knew something was different post surgery. And, fortunately, not unlike yourself, I'm in pretty good shape. So, what you guys just shared was so valuable, I think, to so many people who are going to hear the episode. Before we wrap, is there anything else that you want to add? Maybe in closing, just to share for those who relationships are tough. They're just tough. Clearly, you guys love each other. I don't know how long you've been married, but it.
20,
20
20
years,
years.
20 years.
Congratulations.
I would say, you brought up that your wife went through it with you. I think it's different for females going through this because I just in generalize here, men aren't as nurturing, and so if I get sick, she's there all the time doing like she dives into whatever. I had uh, I had something go on 12 years ago or something like that, and she was all over it. Where I think men are a little less nurturing, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can think of a million words.
So the guys are workers and fixers, but not this. It takes a nurturing kind of uh, mentality to stick by somebody and help them get better. And I would just say that for anybody going through this, to stick with it. Don't take no for an answer from their doctors and from insurance. When we went to Greece, there was still a chance it wasn't going to work. There was still that. Dr. Kofidis wasn't, he wasn't beating around the bush. He was being very upfront. And he's like, we can fix you. How much we get to fix you just depends on how it comes out. So we're going over there. I'm not 100% sure. She's not 100% sure, but it's a last ditch effort. I would say for anybody going through this, that's not the person going through it. That's the
Okay, good.
caregiver, the secondary, Stay with it. Don't take no for an answer. Get it done. It's worth it. It will be better on the other side. I can guarantee it, because from everything I've seen from people on your podcast and from what we've read, there is life again after you get this done. No matter what, whether it's 50% better or 100% better, it's better. So it matters.
And I'll just add, just to back up a little bit. When I woke up after my surgery, Dr. Kofidis goes, "It's a good thing you are here now. You probably didn't have 3 weeks left."
Yeah.
That
He felt the LAD was going to bulge.
it was so thinned out from the bulge on the second twist inside. He said, if that thing would have burst while we were there, I couldn't do anything.
He said you had, he guessed you had a month maybe, and it would have burst. He said very lucky you did it.
It was going to kill me. Just a matter of time. He described it kind of like a water balloon when you squeeze it and it thins out. So it was, that was all.
And I would say also, if for anybody that has to resort to going out of the country to get anything done, I think, that's kind of a thing now, is traveling for different types of medical tourism, going different countries for stuff. I would say for something like this, where it was not cheap, but it was not overly crazy expensive like it would be if you paid cash here in the States, it was worth it. If you have to take a second out on the house, or you have to borrow the money, and it's worth every penny. It was worth 10 times more, to get this results. So,
Right.
And there's not a value on a life or an experience. And I'm super grateful that we stuck it out together. It's not easy. I, as the patient, felt so bad, so guilty for putting him and my kids through this.
that also messes with your mind,
It does.
It makes you feel worse. It goes to that more depressed feeling that, not only are you feeling like crap and nobody's can help you and care for you and do it, but then you feel bad because you're putting others that you love through this too. That's important for, I understood that, even though maybe I didn't express it, but I knew that she felt bad for that. And I tried to be supportive and like, hey, this isn't your fault. We'll get through it. It's frustrating for me too, but, and sometimes I don't handle my frustration and anger the best. I'm not always the greatest husband in the world. So, I get upset and frustrated, and I tried my hardest to not take my frustration out on her, but that's part of it too. It's difficult, so.
And
You did
communication.
a really good job.
You guys appear to be able to speak with each other, and that's really important. And for everybody, if you're going through the situation, it's important from one side to at least listen. And to your point, Tank, guys are not the most empathic human beings on the planet, but at least to listen. Maybe we won't understand. Maybe we can't engage in that same sense of empathy that we know our spouses might have on the flip side, but just trying to understand it and finding a solution and moving it forward like you did. You just kept inching it forward until you got to where you needed to be. And for so many people, that alone is enough just to say, okay, at least he or she is listening to me. They're hearing me. We don't have answers. We don't have solutions, but we're moving forward together. And again, I applaud you guys. I think what you've done is incredible. And you did it all to a positive outcome. And those boys are never going to forget this. They will never forget the experience that you've given them and the ability to see what their parents did and to see mom is healthy again. There's always hope at the end of that, that trial that we all go through. So I can't thank you enough for, participating. And I'm so appreciative that you took this valuable time out of your busy days, because I know this is one of your days off, Tank, and you have them in spurts, so to speak. But the story is going to be played over and over again for the benefit of so many others who are in a similar situation. And Kelly, I am so happy that the surgery was successful for you and it allowed you to get back to doing what you're doing. And like I said, from the beginning of the podcast, I feel like I've known you guys relatively well as friends, and it's only been through this program and our mutual condition, that we've met. But I'm happy to say we've had this conversation, and I appreciate you for so much that when I come down to Ventura, I'm looking you up, and we're going to
You
go
are.
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
dinner.
You
and a
better
drink.
call us before you come.
That's right.
Come on down.
So thank you so
I
much.
can I just thank you from the bottom of my imperfect heart. You are I give you full credit for why we were even introduced to Kofidis. Your platform, you it's great.
Yeah, you were the beginning of all this to get this better. So thank you very
But
much.
not just about the myocardial bridge. I knew all about it before I even saw your podcast, but it was the other people, your guests, you telling your stories and sharing your stories that kind of gave me some validation. I don't know that that's what I was searching for, but I guess I needed it.
Well,
And it helped Tank too, because when he listened, he's like, "Oh my God, there's somebody else out there." It- it- I,
Who
I
is
wasn't
who is this
special.
guy
It
my
was
wife is texting at 10 o'clock at night? Who is this guy?
yeah. Oh, there you go. That's my boy. That's my man.
Well,
Thank you very much
I
for
knew
everything
this would
you've
be a
done.
first in the conversation of couples, but Kelly, you're the first person that has used my line back on me before I got to close the episode with it. So I
We've
will.
watched a few episodes.
I still will close with it. Thank you, guys. Thank you from the bottom of my imperfect heart.
Thank you, Jeff.
Good
Appreciate it.
stuff.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you for listening to Imperfect Heart. It's my hope that this information helped in some way to improve your situation or will help you better understand this condition. More importantly, that it gives you hope through stories that there is help and you most certainly are not alone. If you've been diagnosed with a myocardial bridge, please be sure to join the private Facebook group, Myocardial Bridge Support Group. For more information about our program or to reach me directly, visit the website, myimperfectheart.com. If you like what you heard today, please give a positive review, thumbs up, high five, or whatever your app likes. And be sure to share with everyone important to you so they understand what it is you're dealing with. Please subscribe as well. Welcome each day with gratitude and positivity. The views and opinions expressed in this program are solely those of the host and the guest and are not intended to provide, nor are they a suitable substitute for, professional care by a doctor, therapist, mental health professional, or other qualified medical professional. Imperfect Heart is a production of Hear Me Now Studio.